Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to do a recap of a South Korean drama and comedy film called A Man Who Was Superman from 2008. But before we begin, beware of spoilers and enjoy the video. Soo-jung is a producer going on her third year at a small company. She is a reporter and a video editor. Her specialty is filming human interest stories. She is driven to produce these shallow stories for the sake of her ambition of one day becoming Korea's own Oprah Winfrey. However, she is reaching the end of what's left of her pride. After months of not getting paid, she was working on a video with her colleagues when they stumbled upon a video of a man helping and protecting the law-abiding citizens of Korea, but did not find it interesting enough to make a video on it. One day, she leaves her office as usual with the company camera to produce a story on a lion in Africa who's refusing to eat its meal. On her way to the railway station, she comes across a robber who steals her bag and runs away. She follows him to the streets and finds herself in the middle of the road, about to get hit by a bus, but she is saved somehow by Superman in a Hawaiian shirt. It was the same man whose video she saw with her crew, helping people on the streets. Soo-jung tells him to fetch her purse from the thief, so he runs after him. He catches the thief and secures Soo-jung's bag, but the thief manages to escape by knocking out Superman on the street. Soo-jung follows them too and catches up with Superman. She sees him lying unconscious on the street with her bag. She pours water on his face and wakes him up. She thanks him for securing her bag, and he tells her he was only performing his duty. Soo-jung finds Superman interesting and decides to follow him. Superman, on the other hand, sees a crazy man bothering school kids by flashing them his ding-dong. He arrives at the scene and helps the students by whooping the deranged lunatic and getting rid of him. Soo-jung manages to meet with Superman and interviews him. She asks him to introduce himself. He tells them his name is Superman and he is from the planet Krypton. Soo-jung and her cameraman chuckle at him, but they play along with him. Soo-jung asks him, if you are Superman, then how did a common thief knock you out, and isn't Superman supposed to fly? Can you fly? Superman claims he's unable to tap into his superhuman powers because bad guys have placed kryptonite inside his head. So his powers are very limited now. Once he gets rid of it, he will be able to fly. Superman feels pain in his brain, so he eats a bunch of tablets. He tells Soo-jung that the medicine helps reduce the kryptonite pain in his head. Then, Superman stands upside down on the street with his hands. Soo-jung asks him what he is doing. He tells her that the North Pole of Earth is melting, so he is pushing the Earth a bit further from the sun. Soo-jung finds it very ridiculous and thinks Superman is another crazy doofus. However, he doesn't let that get in his way of helping others, saving the world from global warming, and rescuing a lost puppy. Soo-jung can see this will make a good story. With a little tweaking and a little fabrication, she produces the Superman Saves the World documentary, which goes on to be a rating hit. Over a voiceover by Soo-jung, we see how Superman is helping and saving the world. Now we see Superman telling his story to a few children. He tells the children that he works at the Daily Planet, and he leaves his office secretly to protect the world when there is danger. The children laugh a lot and make fun of him. The next day, Soo-jung wakes up in her apartment and sees Superman standing in front of her. She gets scared and questions him about how he entered her locked apartment. He does not answer her and takes her outside in front of a manhole cover. He tells Soo-jung to listen carefully because a beast is growing underneath it, and it is planning to destroy the city. But in reality, nothing was there. Soo-jung now completely believes that this geezer is definitely mental. Superman feels immense pain in his head and takes out his medicine, but he was all out of them. So he loses consciousness and collapses on the street. Soo-jung takes him to a hospital and gets him examined. After an X-ray examination of Superman's skull, it becomes clear that there is something stuck in his head, a bullet. Afterward, Superman takes Soo-jung to his place, which is no better than a trash hole. Soo-jung looks around his house and finds how to save the world pamphlets and articles pasted everywhere on the walls. She calls her boyfriend and explains to him why she could not come to Africa to shoot the lion with him. Superman overhears her conversation and throws a looped rope on Soo-jung, like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. He asks her what she was talking about on the phone, who she was talking to, and why did she mention his name. Soo-jung tells him the truth about who she is and what she does for a living. While talking, the roof starts to break and falls on Soo-jung, but Superman saves her again. He tells her the beast has arrived and he is going to attack them. Soo-jung looks back and sees nothing had happened to the roof because this was all in Superman's head. It was just another one of his delusions. Soo-jung heads to the roof with Superman now. Superman tries to fly by thinking about jumping off the roof, but Soo-jung stops him. She tells him not to jump because there is kryptonite in his head and he should try to fly once it is out of his brain. Soo-jung gets very gloomy to see Superman's condition because she was trying to imagine how he ended up in this state. But soon, Soo-jung stayed happy around him because wherever she went with him, everyone liked him and treated him very nicely. Hell, she too started seeing visions of flying with Superman. One day, Superman sees a construction crane and perceives it as an alien threat. He starts fighting it and the construction workers who operate the crane. The construction workers call the police on Superman, so the police arrive and arrest him. The doctor examines him and tells the cops that Superman is a mental patient and should be admitted to a mental asylum, so the police admitted him to one. Meanwhile, back at Superman's house, Soo-jung snoops around his house and finds a picture of Superman with his little son. She visits Superman and takes him to a place where she could get some answers out of him. She ties him to a tree with the lasso of truth and asks him to reveal who he truly is. Superman still tells him he is Superman, who is a good guy and only wants to save people from danger by fighting crime. Soo-jung keeps on asking him the same question repeatedly, like a police investigator, so he gets annoyed and jumps on her. He starts to think that Soo-jung is a villain who is also working for the bad guy. However, the true story behind this Superman is revealed during a flashback sequence. Lee faced two major tragedies that traumatized him and left him believing he was, in fact, Superman. During the flashback, we see Lee, his wife, and his daughter in a car, spending quality time together before they get in a car accident. Lee's wife died instantly, but his daughter survived. In the burning wreckage, Lee told his daughter if she counted to 100, he'd turn into Superman to save her. Unfortunately, just as he was running to the car with a fire extinguisher, the bullet in his head caused a seizure, causing him to collapse on the road. As he writhed on the ground in pain, the car exploded with his daughter still inside. None of the onlookers in the crowd attempted to help Lee or his daughter. It was at this moment when mental trauma caused Lee to believe he was Superman. Lee lives his life with the belief that he is indeed Superman. Back in the present, Soo-jung visits Lee's doctor who tells her there is no kryptonite in his head but there is a bullet that causes pain in his brain and often triggers his seizures. He tells her that it is miraculous that he lived with the bullet still lodged in his skull. Meanwhile, Lee was broken and completely lost in the mental hospital. He starts thinking that he is in a prison, controlled by his villain, and he will never be able to escape it. Later on, Soo-jung discovers more pictures of Lee and we see a flashback, revealing the second and the original tragedy of Lee that put him in his current state of mind. When Lee was a boy, he saw Superman with his father, who told him that if he counted to 100, he would become Superman. Lee's dad raised Lee by telling him to help others like Superman. Caught in a skirmish during the Gwangju democratization movement, Lee's father was killed, and the young Lee gets shot in the back of the head. Now, Soo-jung follows Lee around as he attempts to help the community in his bizarre fashion. With his super deeds, Lee inspires hope within the community, and people begin to follow his example. But this change Lee inspired only manifests when he has lost all hope in saving people and realizes the futility of his situation. One day, due to an accident on the road, a gas leak causes an explosion in a building where a lot of civilians get injured. Even though he lost all hope from himself, he still attempts to rescue a police officer from underneath a burning car. Lee manages to lift the car on his own to save the cop underneath it. It's at this moment that people help Lee in trying to rescue the police officer. But when he tries to enter the upper story of the burning building to rescue a girl trapped inside it, Soo-jung stops him and tells him he is not Superman and he might die if he enters the burning building. He tells her that maybe this is his final mission now. Lee enters the burning building and finds that child stuck inside. In the collapsing building, Lee couldn't find any way to escape, so he ends up jumping out of a window with the child, landing on his head. From there he flies and goes back in time to save himself from the bullet that hits Lee in his childhood. Sadly, it was all a dream and he returns to the present where in actuality he died landing on his head saving the child. No one in the crowd helped as they just looked on. In the hospital there appeared to be an S when they were about to take his organ. Soo-jung is inspired by Lee's sacrifice and follows his example by helping an old woman. From then on, Soo-jung remembers a phrase used by Lee Hyun-suk when they first met: strength doesn't open big iron doors, but a small key. This helps the Frosty, calculating Soo-jung to awaken to what's truly important in life. That's all for today. If you liked this video, then please like, share, and comment. Press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Take care, and see you next time.